no, this one ripped. Today we're gonna make some kimbap and have some real talk.
So today I've pre-prepared a lot of the ingredients that need to go in the kimbap, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about some of the hard things growing up Korean American in the South.
Okay, before we jump into the real talk, I do want to say I'm not going to talk about the universal racism or microaggressions that all people of color have been facing on a regular basis, because there's already a lot of good content out there that discusses this and that shares everyone's experience. So I wanted to make this one a little bit more personal to my specific experience growing up in Southern America in Texas. So I was born and raised in North Texas, and yes, I did grow up in the 90s and the 2000s. I'm so bad at multitasking. Okay. So many Korean Americans grew up in relatively larger cities, and also Koreans kind of aggregate towards the same neighborhoods, the same districts. A lot of times it's due to like good schools or like safe neighborhoods. So my family and I lived pretty far away, I want to say, from the average Korean American that grew up in North Texas or around Dallas. So we lived in a suburb probably about 30 minutes away from where many other Koreans lived at the time. For my entire school experience, I didn't have a single other Korean student in my grade. I think there was a time where maybe there would be one or two in the school overall, but I didn't have a lot of Koreans in my school. And that was from, first grade all the way through graduating high school. Okay, I haven't done this in so long. Let's see if I still, what am I doing? Ta-da, my first one. Point number one, growing up, kids in elementary school had no idea what Korea was. I don't doubt that their parents knew, but in elementary school, so many of my classmates and my friends had no idea what Korea was, where Korea was, anything about Korean culture. And I remember growing up, whenever I asked, where my parents were from or what my ethnicity is, and I would say, I'm Korean, a lot of my friends or classmates would say, what's Korean? I didn't have like a terrible experience with it, but that kind of response, I think, made me feel really small and really insignificant. And, most of the kids knew Japan, knew China. A lot of them actually knew the Philippines and Vietnam. And maybe it's because we lived in an area where there were more Filipino families or Vietnamese families. I'm not sure. But it was a common thing to be asked, like, what Korea was or where Korea was. I personally don't have like a super negative experience with it, but my sister has like a big core memory where, her classmate accused her of lying about her country and said, Korea is a fake country and it doesn't even exist. And of course, my sister, that's like as a young child, that's a very hurtful and almost like embarrassing thing, where the culture that we are growing up around and that the only one that we really know is being challenged of even existing. So that was really hard. I think I never felt proud of my heritage growing up because of that, because first of all, no one really knew what Korea was or where Korea was, or had never met a Korean before. And I know, that should have made me more proud and more motivated to like teach them, but it kind of did the opposite, where it made me shrink and feel really insecure about where I was from. And I remember like wishing like, geez, I wish I was, Japanese or Chinese or Filipino or another race, so that people would actually know what I am. And they wouldn't question or give me the look of, I've never heard of that country before. So that was really hard growing up. Obviously, this became less as, the kids got more educated and we went to like middle school and high school, but still, elementary school is like a very formative time. And, to be told that to be told that your race and your culture and your heritage, you know, is so insignificant or so small, it was hard. And I understand, like, Korea was really small, and granted, now we cover so much of pop culture, but you know, it wasn't always that way. So I understand where that confusion can come from. The second thing that was the hardest was, honestly, other Koreans. Oh gosh, I don't know how controversial of a statement that's gonna be, but that's the truth. Like, you know, like I mentioned, my sisters and I grew up in an area that didn't really have a lot of Koreans. And also my parents and my whole entire family is Catholic. So I don't know if you guys know this, a lot of Korean immigrants actually find community through church. Many times the bigger churches are usually Christian churches and not Catholic churches. A lot of Koreans in my area knew each other through church, or if it's school, if they go to a school where a lot of other Koreans go to. But I really, thank God, like I had my sisters and my cousins to kind of normalize that feeling of being an outsider, because honestly, I feel like whenever I met other Korean Americans, students or kids, like I felt a little bit like an outsider. And I've heard the term, people saying that Koreans can be really cliquey and they only hang out with other Koreans, like etc. And I definitely remember like feeling that too. And don't get me wrong, like I'm guilty of it as well. Most of my closest, like best friends are Korean Americans. So I can totally empathize, and I don't get defensive whenever other races, you know, explain to me like, oh yeah, Koreans are super like, they only hang out with each other. I remember like going a couple times, we went to like a summer camp type thing but my parents put us into like one at a Christian church, and you know, me and my sisters like didn't know anybody. And I remember feeling like people weren't really friendly. And even though it was nice to see other Korean Americans that I like felt like I could relate to, like I didn't feel like anyone really wanted to be friends, because essentially like they didn't know me, but as well as like, you know, I didn't go to maybe their church or something. I'm not sure, but that definitely changed a lot whenever I went to college and, you know, made a lot more Korean American friends. But like growing up, I remember thinking like that was really hard. And by the way, this isn't 100% of the case, obviously. I also made some like really good childhood friends through like these different types of activities. But for the most part, I remember always feeling really intimidated, feeling like an outsider whenever I was in these group settings of Korean Americans who already had like large groups of Korean American friends. Like growing up, you know, as a very sensitive and emotional preteen, like child, preteen, teenager, I think that was always hard. The third thing that was really hard growing up, and I don't think this has anything to do with growing up in the South, maybe more so in like a Western culture, but third thing I had a hard time with was Korean authority figures. I don't know if it's just like the Western modern mindset, like, but as some of you may know, Korea is very severe on the hierarchy of age. So, you know, to someone older, you call them something different, you use like a different type of language, especially when you're growing up as a kid. Like anyone who is an adult automatically kind of has a right to say whatever they want. And like as a kid, you shouldn't really correct them, which I thought was so stupid. So growing up, I got in a lot of trouble by my parents because I would honestly like talk back to adults or correct them if I disagreed with them. And I really felt like just because you're older does not mean I have to give you blind respect. Like, I don't care what age anyone is, like I'll respect them regardless, but if you're gonna be stupid and immature, then why do you deserve, you know, me just saying like, oh, nah, and then like turning a blind eye when I should be like, that's stupid and I disagree and you're wrong. So whether it was teachers or relatives or just like people that I saw, you know, outside wherever, like I would get in a lot of trouble because I wasn't like the quintessential, just like sweet smiling and like, okay, moving on. Like I just really, and you know what's crazy is I never really felt like I experienced that with non-Korean adults. Like I felt like other adults, you know, it's not that I never felt the need to talk back to them because I never felt like they put me in a position of like, oh, you're younger and like, you're just a little kid and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like I never felt like other race adults really did that. So yeah, the whole like blind authority thing is still super weird to me. I totally agree you should treat everyone with respect and everyone deserves that. But like, yeah, if you're gonna be an idiot, then no, I'm not gonna freaking respect you. So yeah, I think my parents probably like contemplated a lot of like, oh gosh, like how do we correct this girl? Just because that's so against Korean culture. To this day, I still side with myself. And I think if you're an adult, if you're a Korean adult who just like expects blind respect from little kids, like something's wrong with you. So kids are actually a lot smarter than us. So anyway, that was really hard growing up. The fourth thing that was hard growing up where I did, I hated my facial features. A lot of my friends growing up were actually like Chinese, Vietnamese, I think, like I mentioned, Vietnamese and Filipino. So like a lot of my friends had the double eyelid, the sangkapur, or they had like really nice features, like a really cute nose or like juicy lips or a really defined jaw. I don't know. But I feel like a lot of Korean features is that, you know, we don't have the double eyelid. We have a rounder, flatter face. We don't have like a distinct jawline. So I felt really, I definitely felt like I wish I could look more like my friends who I thought were just like the prettiest people ever. And, you know, they were tan and I was paler, and even if I did try to tan, it would go away. And so I was always paler and yeah, I just remember always wishing like that I didn't look so Korean or had different features, like pretty ones like my friends, which, you know, is the common thing you hear about people of color. You know, being a minority, of course I did want more Caucasian features, but even ultimately, like within even the Asian community, like I wished I looked like my friends more, and just, yeah, really didn't like my facial features. So it took a long time, probably even like maybe towards like the end of high school, where I feel like my friends, you know, they did give me a lot of affirmations and like made me feel more beautiful. So I think that definitely helped. And then just slowly, I think the rise of Korean media, K-pop, etc. And like, of course, everyone has gotten work done, etc. But just made me appreciate like my Korean features more, I want to say. So that definitely helped. Okay, before I get too carried away with this one. The last thing that was hard growing up, Korean American, where I did, this one's a little bit more lighthearted. And again, this one I think could be a little bit more universal for other Korean Americans as well, was the inability to share Korean entertainment with my friends. I was always super into Korean dramas. Honestly, even like the reason I think I can't speak Korean is because of Korean dramas. But my personality is, when I like something, like I want to like it and enjoy it with the people I love and like my friends. And so because there was this Korean drama that I loved and I wanted to watch it with my friend, but obviously like Korean dramas didn't exist on the internet at the time, and Yes, like I had Korean dramas I could watch through like VHS rental stores, through like the Korean video stores, but that was pretty much it. And so I showed her like a clip of it and she was interested. So basically we watched we watched a few Korean dramas, maybe like one or two, where I kind of like VO translated the entire drama for my friend. And it wasn't, she didn't ask me to do that. It's because I was so in love with the drama. And by the way, the drama is Kung, or I think Palace. So basically we would play it and then I would pause and I'd be like, okay, he just said blah, blah, blah. And then she said blah, blah. And she'd be like, oh, and you know, we watched the entire drama that way. And honestly, she got really into it. So it was a lot of fun for me, and just because she did enjoy watching it with me. I think towards like the end of high school and college, people like knew about it more, especially my Asian, non-Korean friends. And so it was fun to be able to talk about it with them. But man, like for a few of those years when before the internet had all this stuff, it was rough. Voila! Look at all the kimbap. Not bad. Hope you guys learned a little bit about myself and how I grew up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.